Hey everyone, it's me, Tia Torres, and of course, I want to thank you for joining me in another episode of Wild Instincts. And I'm actually recording this during a storm, so I hope my internet doesn't cut out, and I hope you don't have to listen to Jethro raging in the background, so we will do our best. So I know the Wild Instincts podcast has become a lot of storytelling, and it's funny and it can be entertaining, but my whole reason behind wanting to do this entire series was to correlate it between working with the type of animals I did and then how it helped me transition into working with dogs. So there's a message there, and we're going to talk about that in a second with this next story. But I just want to remind everybody that, when you're seeking a dog trainer, and they have to manhandle, okay, I'm not going to say manhandle, I guess I have to be gender appropriate. When they have to physically manipulate your dog, but pretty harshly. Okay, I don't mean like, let me push down on his butt a little bit to make him sit. I don't mean that, okay? I don't mean having to maybe yank him back because he lunged at a dog. I mean, and there goes Jethro. Just when I see a lot of these, let me go physically manipulate Jethro. Hold on. Hey, come right here. He don't care. Zero respect. But when I see so many of these dog trainers just out the gate, just physically almost abusing a dog, my first question is always this. It's so easy for a 150 to 200 pound man to grab a hold of a 40 to 50 pound dog and bully it into doing what you want. Well, how would you feel about doing it to a 700 pound Bengal tiger? I always want to throw that in their face because you know what? They wouldn't do it. All right. So I have to keep reiterating that because I really want you to know that there's so much more meaning to this podcast than just me telling my stories about my time in Sri Lanka. And there's so many things that go into understanding animal behavior than just give me your dog. I'm going to teach it to do this, this, and this, and I'm going to cure all of its problems. This is why working with this animal company that I did, they had such an extensive knowledge of every species we worked with. Thus the reason why certain trainers were appointed to that particular type of animal, because they got to know those animals' behavior. It was, God, it was so brilliant to watch them in action and learn from them. For example, well, do I want to tell the story now? Yeah, I'll quickly divert for a second. I love the tigers as far as the big cats were concerned. The tigers were my favorite. And I learned very quickly that, and I was taught that, I don't know if it was just a tiger thing or a big cat thing, but they are of the mindset that what's theirs is theirs and what's yours is theirs. Okay. And to take your thing back from them can be quite challenging. So we were taught early on when walking, the tigers, because I was like a backup second trainer for the tigers. When walking them through an area, be very aware of the things around you because they will take it and it will be hell getting it back from them. I'm going to fast forward for a second. Years later, after I came back from Sri Lanka and continued with my training, I was hired suddenly. It was like we need a trainer quickly because ours didn't show up. I was outsourced to work with a trainer. Oh my God, this is going to go down a rabbit hole. Okay, buckle up. To work with this other big cat trainer, he was making an appearance on the Jay Leno show. And this guy was known for having ligers. True story. He crossed lions with tigers. I know, right? Very impressive to see them. They look like big saber-toothed tigers. I mean, like from like the prehistoric days. But I showed up, whatever studios, what was Jay Leno on? I don't even know. ABC? I don't remember. In NBC. And I show up and, God, this story is, I just outdid myself. I'm going to make really quick cliff notes and then we'll come back to this another time. The trainer ended up being Doc Antle, which is one of the guys that's facing prison time because he was a part of the, what the hell was it called on Netflix? Joe Exotic. I don't even know. The Tiger, whatever it was. The Tiger, whatever that show was called. He was in it. Okay. Of course, at the time, we did not know who he was. Anyways, in walking, one of the tigers through the studio, I was a backup trainer and my bad. I wasn't paying attention. And the tiger grabbed a hold of a sandbag that was being used to hold down some of the lighting equipment. Woo! It got ugly. That tiger was not letting go of that sandbag. So you have to try to use, treats. Basically, it's like chunks of meat or chicken to convince this tiger to let go of the sandbag. Because let me tell you something. You try and scruff a tiger and tell him to, let go, out, do anything like that. You're going to lose your life. Okay. You don't do that. So, anyways, these are just some of the things, that I learned about the different species of animals I work with. So let's come back to Sri Lanka. This particular the Tiger King, that was the show, right? The Tiger King. Yeah, that was, sorry, I just had a brain fart. That's a whole nother story. Who would have thought that I worked with a trainer that is currently looking at prison time because it caught up to him after being on the Tiger King and all his shit being exposed. Yeah. That was an experience to remember that day. Let's just say it involved sedated animals, female trainers dressed up in tiger and leopard print bodysuits. Yeah, it was a thing. Okay. It's a true story. Okay, we're back in Sri Lanka. Here's where I'm going with this story about learning about the different species. This particular scene called for the actor who played Mowgli. His name was Jamie. I believe he must have been probably around 9 or 10, maybe 8 to 10 years old. And he looked just like him. And he was going to be up in a tree with two of the chimpanzees. Because, as you know, in the Jungle Book story, there were chimpanzees that played a big part in the story as well. And on this particular day, it was a male and a female chimp. And they were just supposed to be like sitting up on this big, huge branch with Jamie. And as they're filming, all of a sudden, the male chimp lunged at Jamie and bit him on the foot. And he had bare feet because he was Mowgli. It was just a quick bite, but it was enough to cause Jamie to scream, start crying. The other trainer, went up there and yelled, "Get back, get back, get back, get back!" Called the other chimp to him. Thankfully, did not bite his toes off. Okay, he did have some teeth indentations on his foot, and it hurt. Chimps are very strong. So at a glance, the trainer that was handling these particular chimps, he was an outsourced trainer, meaning he wasn't the normal trainer that worked with them. I remember him yelling at them, just yelling at this male chimp. So the regular chimp handler ended up showing up. I forgot where he was at. He was close by. He just wasn't there for this particular shot. Came over, got the two chimps, put them away, and was just shocked that this male chimp would do that. He just said, he just doesn't act like that. Well, turned out the female chimp was in heat. It was her time of the month. And nobody detected it. So the male chimp got a whiff and didn't want anybody near her. So it was his way of kind of like protecting what was his. And this could be said to happen amongst dogs as well. This could play a factor into a dog's behavior. That is why, for the life of me, I don't know why everybody doesn't spay their female dogs. I mean, they call us bitches for a reason, So, that was what we call handler error. The chimp handlers should have noticed that and, should have switched out chimps. Or I don't think they had any other chimp to use. Maybe just not use the female, But it can happen with dogs too. It can happen with any animal. True story. Another true story. When I was, a teenager, I don't remember the age. Let's see, I was living in Santa Susana Knolls. So I must have been like, young, maybe 12-ish, 13, something like that. Maybe a little younger. And I was living with my father and my stepmother. And they were into horses. They had Arabian horses. And we had some pretty hot horses. And when I mean by hot, I mean they're spicy. And Arabians are like very hot-blooded horses. They are like the Ferraris of the horse world, okay? And one of the gals that lived there was cleaning a horse's stall. Actually, one of the stud horses, one of the stallions. His nickname was Nippy. How did I remember that? It was Nippy. I don't remember his real name, but that's what my dad called him. Big, huge, beautiful, pretty thick for an Arab, Arabian stallion. And this woman went in there to clean the horse's stall. And I was somewhere in the barn, and I started to hear her yell for me. And the fear in her voice, you could hear it before you saw it. And when I went over there, she was in the corner of the stall holding up a rake to keep the horse back. And Nippy was like all arched up, like arched up. And that's when I noticed his shalang-a-lang was hanging down and in full swing, if you get what I mean. I'm like, what the hell? And he's trying to like push onto her. And she's yelling, get him back, get him back. And, I ran and got my dad, and he came down and put a halter on Nippy and held on to him to get the woman out. Turns out it was her time of the month, and he smelled it, and he wanted it. So, once again, there are factors involved around an animal's behavior that you may never, ever think would mean anything. And in this particular situation, actually in all of them, it was, a woman's time or a female's time. And it was that smell of the blood. Pretty crazy though, right? You wouldn't think, but it happens. That was probably way too much information, but it needed to be told. Well, I feel flustered now. I feel like I need to end this episode and get onto something a little more upbeat. Okay, well, there's your lesson for the day, and on to the next one. Just remember to stay wild and always follow your instincts.